Thank you for asking, Jessica. Lotus Pier is gone. Lotus Pier is gone, and so are all of the young people that Wei Wuxian and Xiang Cheng have grown up with, as well as Xiang Cheng's parents, who were the second set of parents that Wei Wuxian ever had, because yes, he lost 2 sets of parents at this point, and Xiang Cheng also lost his golden core as well as all of his legacy, and he blames everything that happened on Wei Wuxian, and now Wei Wuxian was just picked up by the Wen clan and dropped on the burial mound. So, I've been better. Hi, my name is Cranes. I'm reading MDZS for the first time. I haven't watched The Untamed, so please no spoilers. I just finished chapter 12, and if you need to know what happens in it, all of that. It's basically the chapter that rips out your heart, tears it into a million pieces, just throws them on the floor and says, you gotta pick them up yourself, bitch. That's not true, because there's a little Wen disciple who also helps you pick up those pieces, but he's the only good thing that you get in this chapter, and you were better thankful for it. I cannot remember the last time I was this exhausted after finishing a chapter, mostly because I was crying non-stop. I'm forcing myself to make this video because I want to capture how I actually feel, but if this is not as coherent as usual, that's why. I don't even know where to start. I don't even. Just tell me that it gets better, actually. Just tell me that I won't feel like this forever. And if I will, lie. Alright, so this was an intensely plot-heavy chapter. So much happened in this chapter that explains a lot of what has been going on in book 1 and book 2. So many of the grievances, the grudges, the anger, the pain that we can feel ripple through the first 2 volumes of this book, they start here. They start in chapter 12. This was the stone hitting the surface of the water, rippling out through the entire story. And now that I think about it, this chapter is actually all about cause and effect. It is all about what has been done and what caused what and who can be blamed for what. And particularly in Wei Wuxian's case, I think there are 2 things that are important in that regard. First of all, because Madame Yu and Xiang Cheng are very quick to blame Wei Wuxian for the Wen clan's attack on Lotus Pier. They say that his behavior in the cave directly resulted in that attack. And to some degree, they are right? I mean, the Wen clan comes to Lotus Pier directly because they want to punish Wei Wuxian for how he behaved in the cave and his insolence. And because they don't want to hand Wei Wuxian over, that is when things go off the rails. This is particularly tough when you remember that Xiang Cheng was the one who kept telling Wei Wuxian to not get involved because it might result in, their home getting attacked. And that is exactly what happened. I mean, Xiang Cheng saw it coming from afar. Maybe he was a bit too afraid, but I think Wei Wuxian was also underestimating the Wen clan's ability to, act on any kind of insult to them. I had a conversation about Wei Wuxian's hero complex in the comments of my last video, and I think it's really interesting because I think it's so clear that he has a very distinct hero complex in those first 2 chapters of book 3. But that, of course, they're based on something true, on something real. He's standing up for the right things, but what he cannot see right now are those ripples that his actions will cause. However, I want to be very clear about this. I don't think Wei Wuxian is at fault. The people who are at fault for the attack on Lotus Pier is the Wen clan. You're living in a world of cruelty, where cruelty is just the answer to everything. There was no safe choice for Wei Wuxian. There was no safe choice. If he hadn't acted in the cave, then they would have probably all died in the cave. So what was he supposed to do? And the fact that the Wen clan reacted with this kind of cruelty, that was not Wei Wuxian's fault. And there was another action that Wei Wuxian took way earlier that rippled outwards and now had some miraculous results, a positive result, and that is Wen Ning. Wen Ning as a character comes into this story in chapter 12 at a point where all hope is lost. It is that moment where I was sitting there just wailing, crying, not sure how to cope because he had also lost Xiang Cheng. I do wonder how I would have responded to Wen Ning's first appearance in this book now if I wasn't making this video series here, because from all of your comments I already knew that Wen Ning was a good guy and was somebody to look forward to and somebody we could trust. The moment I read the name Wen Ning, it felt like, the eagles coming to save the hobbits in the Lord of the Rings, or the lifeboat turning back to collect Rose in Titanic. It was just, I just felt such a surge of happiness and joy, and just like everything was going to be okay. And it was because he's such a good egg. He's such a good egg. I didn't expect him to be such a good egg. He's the ghost general. He's feared. He's so feared by everyone. How does that happen? I'm so curious how this like shy, stammering little guy is gonna turn into the ghost general. But back to Wei Wuxian. The fact that Wen Ning reacts to Wei Wuxian the way that he does is a direct result of Wei Wuxian's kindness that he showed Wen Ning way in the past. And that was real compassion and real kindness without calculation that just rippled outwards and resulted in him meeting somebody who could save their lives in this moment. I also think Wen Ning's appearance in this chapter is so important for the narrative and for the world building, because this chapter paints a picture of a world that I am not sure is worth saving. You know what I mean? Everything is just cruelty all the way down. There is no redeeming quality to the systems in this world, to the way the society is structured. Nothing feels like it is something that I want to protect or save. And then all of a sudden, Wen Ning appears. We as readers are reminded that beneath all of those oppressive systems are people, individuals with their own hearts and minds who can make decisions for good or for evil. And just because your name starts with Wen does not mean that you're locked into cruelty inherently. And it's not just Wen Ning who challenges this idea. Madame Yu, to me, also challenges it. But Wen Ning was important in this particular chapter because I was starting to lose hope that there was anybody else other than Wei Wuxian who was capable of true kindness. And kindness detached from clan allegiances, right? Kindness detached from what this world demands of us in terms of the hierarchy that we are sitting in. And I know I'm not saying anything particularly novel here because this is the key concept behind Wei Wuxian's character, that he sees the world for all of its gray tones and not just for how black and white it is. But I think it was particularly interesting and good to shine a spotlight on this idea in chapter 12, where there's just so much cruelty and you might be tempted to accept it as just inherent to the world. But you needed to be, or we needed to be reminded that no, actually, they are still people. They're just living in a world built to ruin them. But even in that world, you can be a bit of a cinnamon roll. That's okay too. Also, I just need my man in the funeral clothes back, please. I mean, this is what happens when you have a chapter without Lan Wangqi, just all of the shit hitting all of the fans, and I need him back to sort things out. Okay, I will leave you with a little snippet of something that I noticed, because I noticed it. This is indeed the Overwatch office, Wen Ning added. If there's one place that the Wen clan won't search, it's here. You can stay here, just don't let anyone find you. Wei Wuxian paused briefly, before he finally forced himself to release his grip. He muttered a thank you and a sorry under his breath, and then laid Jiang Cheng on the wooden bed in the room. I feel normal about that.